They want the government to facilitate more economic fairness, but they think America's poor are too dependent on government assistance. No, we're not talking about the cast from Glee. We are talking about the nation's 18 to 24-year-olds, the millennial generation. And a new survey reveals just how much they dance to their own beat. Jennifer Wishon, better known in the Brody File here as Jenny in the V Block, is here to break it down. Not break down, but break it down. Jenny?
Thanks, David. This definitely is not your grandmother's generation. Millennials are more diverse than the overall population, yet similarly divided by race on certain issues. They're more spiritual and less religious. And when asked to compare their generation to that of their parents, 40% have negative things to say, describing themselves as lazier, less moral, and more selfish. A survey conducted by Georgetown University and the Public Religion Research Institute found the Christian church is witnessing millennials walking out the door. The Catholic Church has suffered the biggest loss. 8% of millennials who were raised Catholic have left the church. The group that saw the biggest gain is religiously unaffiliated. 14% of millennials have left the churches of their childhoods to become unaffiliated. It's how 25% of all millennials identify themselves.
Millennials are much less likely to say they have a personal belief in God, like someone who can have a relationship with. They're more likely than older generations to say that God is a more impersonal force in the universe.
The survey shows millennials have strong ties to their parents. Most of them report talking to them at least once a day. But they're less likely than their parents to say the Bible is the literal word of God. For most millennials, the upcoming presidential election will be their first as eligible voters. 4 years ago, young voters gave the president a major boost, but his support has weakened. Perhaps it's because 76% of millennials say jobs and unemployment are the most critical issues. The federal deficit and education are also ranked high. Just 22% say gay marriage and abortion are critical.
So for Obama campaign, it's not sort of re-energizing voters, it's contacting a whole new group of folks that weren't engaged the first time around because they couldn't vote. And so for the Romney campaign, even among millennials who prefer a Republican candidate win the election, he was only barely the first choice.
Let's take a look at the millennial moral meter. 64% of millennials think sex between an unmarried man and woman is morally okay. 48% say homosexual sex is morally acceptable. 41% think it's okay to view pornography, while 37% think having an abortion is acceptable. Economic equality is an issue millennials think is very important. 72% like the president's Buffett rule, which raises taxes on America's millionaires. In contrast, 56% of millennials think the size of government has increased because it's become too involved in things Americans should be doing for themselves. And 67% believe poor people have become too dependent on government assistance. Now, the same millennials who were interviewed for this survey will be interviewed again at the end of the summer. At that point, we'll get a better idea of how many plan to vote and which candidate they're fired up for. On questions regarding religion, this is interesting, David, the surveyors plan to change some of their questions to measure new ways young people are practicing their faiths, such as through small groups and social media.